A custom safety cabinet, stick around. Don't you just hate it when you can't find a piece of protective equipment? Did I leave it in the garage or is it buried on a shelf somewhere? Maybe it's time to pay safety equipment some respect and build its own storage locker.
Ah, yeah.
To begin with, we're going to want to pick a spot somewhere in your shop or basement or garage where it would be handy to build a recessed in-wall safety equipment cabinet. You're looking for a gap between studs in the wall, and you'll want to cut out a clean edge in the drywall against the studs. Now, most stud openings in the US and Canada are 14.5 inches wide based on centering the studs at 16 inches apart. In other countries, it varies, but that would be the maximum width of the cabinet you insert into the opening. So I'm going to have gloves, knee pads, dust masks, ear protection, and eye protection I'm going to want to include in my cabinet. And the next step is to lay it out and figure out the depth that you're going to need in order to store all of that equipment. And for me, my total cabinet depth is going to be 5.5 inches deep. That'll be enough to put it inside the stud wall, and it'll sit proud of the exterior drywall by about 2 inches. And so this is a very basic, easy box frame to build at 5.5 inches deep. I'm just going to have a clamp hold the pieces together, glue, and use a pin nailer to attach the sides. We're going to reinforce the overall box with some exterior trim you'll see in a minute. And so we're also going to pick some thin backing board to form the back of the cabinet. It doesn't have to be that heavy duty. It just needs to perform a stop, essentially, for the back of the cabinet because it's going to go pretty much right up against that back piece of drywall. And with the box frame initially built, we'll check the fit and make sure that it goes in easily, but still sits pretty close to the 2x4 stud frames so that it's easy to screw into place and secure. And I'm about 2 inches, again, outside of the drywall. So we'll cut some poplar trim, which is nice clear lumber without any knots, to form the lip of this cabinet. And that exterior trim will wind up flushing up against the drywall, making a nice clean fit when we install the cabinet. Now this is an old cabinet door which happened to be exactly 48 inches, which sort of dictated the dimensions of my in-wall cabinet. And as it turns out, that 48-inch total height is everything I need to store my equipment. Of course, your cabinet size can vary. And I really dig this antique first aid kit that we'll include at the top of the cabinet. Because man, in a wood shop, you gotta have Band-Aids handy. And so with the base cabinet built, it's time to lay out the equipment and possibly build some retaining components to hold the equipment in place. So I'll put a little bridge here to hold the gloves in place. I'm going to need another platform to be able to store the knee pads and so forth. And possibly some dowels to hold the dust masks and also the ear protection. And so on the drill press, we'll punch out some holes for the dowel rods. And we're going to use some pretty cool cherry wood dowels because I happen to have those in stock. So we're going to add some class to our cabinet. So we'll just glue and hammer these in place. And I've already checked the fit of these components to make sure they're tight inside the cabinet. This is really not that difficult of a project, but to be fair,
To be fair.
yes, to be fair, it will take some measurements and a little engineering to build a cabinet to suit your personal needs. And so after we get everything squared up and all of the internal components laid out, it's time to finish the assembly, get everything attached, glued and nailed, and then we'll get ready to hang the door. And one more step to paint the poplar trim, which will match the paint that we have on the shop walls. I'm also going to cut out this small cross out of thin oak because back in the day, the green cross icon used to stand for worker safety. Now, in the state of Michigan and some other states that have legalized a particular organic material, the green cross tends to represent something completely different.
You got skills.
Pretty simple piano hinge, and I really like this antique cast iron handle for the front of the door. And making sure the green cross is centered on the front. Everybody should know that it's a first aid cabinet and there's safety equipment in there. And because we pre-fit the box, we knew it was going to fit tightly in the space that we cut out. Sit. Stay while I get my screw gun. Well, since we're now pretty deep into week number 6 of our new workshop build, this safety equipment cabinet is a welcome addition to the new shop. And where I honestly had to hunt for my dust mask and my ear protection that was packed in a box after our move, this makes one location where we can store everything and it's easy to access. It's right in front of all of our major tools. It's going to be hard to lose anything if we remember to put it back after we use it. And so while it sits sort of in the back corner between my little bar area, the sink, and we start to get into the heavy equipment, it's in a perfect location to be able to grab that equipment. And starting from the bottom, it'll hold the gloves, knee pads, our dust masks for both Matt and myself, some ear protection, including some soft plugs, eye protection on the top, and of course, a little first aid kit too, because man, you are going to be a blood donor in this wood shop. It turned out to be a great project. I hope you give it a try.
What? Again, sir.